Okay, welcome back to the First and Gold podcast. I'm your host, Sam Gold, and today we got a special video. We haven't talked fantasy much, really at all, on this entire channel. During the regular season, last season, I would always mention stuff about my fantasy team, how I've been frustrated. I mean, heck, one of our most viral clips that we love putting out is me yelling about Bijan Robinson. Al, I know you're tired of the clip, and maybe you want to put it up right here. How? I lost because he had a headache! Bijan! Fucking take this! Take the Tylenol! It's that easy! As you can see by the title today, we have fantasy award predictions. I only got 6 here, so it's not going to be a super long video. I'll list out these 6 awards before I name who's going to win them. We have Best Rookie Award, the most underrated player going into the season, the most overrated player, biggest surprise player, someone who's super under the radar that's going to come as a surprise and really blossom this season, comeback player, and MVP, of course. So, I think we just hop right into it. It's August now. It really is fantasy football draft season. Shout out, we are going to do a fantasy draft live stream of our league. I'm going to be in it. Producer Al's going to be in it. A ton of our friends. It's going to be a lot of fun. So just be on the lookout for details later. We're going to live stream it sometime in late August. But let's jump into the video. Here we go. Let's start with the best rookie prediction for fantasy football 2024. Let's start with, I know this one seems obvious, but I really can't see anybody else topping this guy, the amount of hype he's gotten, especially out of college. He's on a team where he's probably going to get the most amount of targets, even as a rookie. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. Who are we kidding? From the Arizona Cardinals. He was picked in the top 5. He is, honestly, look, I'm not the guy to try and hype up a receiver, but out of college already, he's already looking, if not just as good or better than a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase in terms of potential. Now, obviously, he can go out. He's on a worse offense this season. He can go out and not be as good. But I think in terms of the entirety of the rookies you're looking at, like, I don't think Malik Neighbors on the Giants is going to be as good. That offense just overall doesn't have as much potential. You look at some of the running backs. I mean, Jonathan Brooks went to the Panthers. And then we have Trey Benson as well, who was also on the Cardinals. But if I'm going to pick one Cardinal, especially a rookie, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So, yeah, I mean, he's going pretty high. His ADP right now is pretty high. It's like late second, early third. Sometimes for some platforms, it's like mid-second round for Marvin Harrison, which is a little surprising. I don't know if I draft him that high, but look, a lot of people are like, this dude is the next number 1 receiver. The Cardinals got an absolute dog. And you know what? For fantasy, with the amount of targets he's going to be getting, because there's not so many weapons, I'm going to put him up there. So there's Marvin Harrison, best rookie. Let's go to most underrated player going into the season. Now, I'm not saying this player is, everybody's like, oh, he's not going to be good this year. But I just think he's being underrated. I don't think his ADP is high enough, which is good because, you know, people want to draft a guy that's underrated. So I'm going to go out. It's a good offense. I'm going to pick the starting running back, presumably right now, for the Bengals, Zach Moss. Now, he was on the Colts last year. He started 8 games and averaged 18 points per game in full PPR. 18 points. I don't think a lot of people really know that. I knew it, of course, because I had Zach Moss on my team. I drafted Zach Moss last year. And then I traded him away, and then the second I traded him away, he started being good, of course. So, you know, I have mixed emotions about Zach Moss, but to look at a guy that made that much production when Jonathan Taylor was out, and still was involved. He still was relatively involved when Jonathan Taylor was there as well. I think you go to the offense of the Bengals. I mean, he has not only a higher chance of touches, of course, now he's presumably the lead back, but he has a higher chance of touchdowns as well. Just because compared to the Colts offense last year, I mean, if Joe Burrow's healthy, everybody's healthy, they have a much higher chance of scoring, and that's just going to boost his potential, especially in a full PPR as well. He's very underrated out of the backfield. He was the 27th ranked running back total last year, and that's only starting 8 games. So he was a solid flex on average, a solid RB1, late RB1, early RB2 when he was an actual starter. So you mix that with putting him on the Bengals now, and he's a young guy too. He's in his, you could put up his age now. I think he's like 27, 28. I can't remember, but he's a young running back. So he hasn't hit that ceiling yet. He's in the second contract. They're going to love to use him. They're going to want to use him in the passing game more often. So I'm picking Zach Moss for the Bengals for the most underrated. And now let's go with overrated. A lot of people are going to like this pick. I'm sorry. I am really high on this team. Super high on this offense. The problem is there's just too many pieces to spread it around. And I'm going to go with the Texans wide receiver. No, it's not Tank Dell because that's the one guy I still love. But I'm going to go Nico Collins. I think Nico Collins, although I'm not going to go out and say he's going to be a bust, it's just his ADP is way too high right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure he is like late third, early fourth round. I would not touch it right now. I'd rather wait a round or two and get Tank Dell. I kind of feel the same way about Stephon Diggs, except Stephon Diggs, they paid him that much money to come over to the team. I just think that he's going to get the first look. Maybe not. A lot of people are saying that Stephon Diggs might be the odd man out because CJ Stroud already has the rapport with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I don't know. But with a guy like Tank Dell, I just can't see him replicating the same season as last year. And I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't want to draft him that high. He was ranked, 16th. He's ranked 16th in fantasy football this season for wide receivers. I just think he's a little bit lower than that. I see him as a low-end wide receiver 2 at best. There's so many targets. It's like the opposite of vacated targets. Like, that's the guy you want in your league is someone who's going to make up for vacated targets. Now he's going to have to split it with another guy, especially Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's the alpha. Let's be real. It's tough with the Texans. Like, I'd rather just get a guy with big play potential like Tank Dell, or just get CJ Stroud, and then you could really have a piece of the pie wherever you go because he's going to be throwing it to all those guys. So it's really a tough decision with the Texans offense this year. Okay, and then I'm going to go with my biggest surprise this year. I feel like not too many people are talking about this guy. Not necessarily underrated because, look, I'm not going to go out and say this is the most talented person in the NFL. Of course not. I'm going to go with the Raiders starting running back, Zamir White, as your biggest surprise this season. Not only because his ADP is so low, but think about it. Josh Jacobs is gone. There's already going to be so many vacant carries for him to take care of. Antonio Pierce is the new coach. Or, I mean, he was the new coach last year, but he's going to have his first full season as a head coach. And if you guys saw our last video, my record predictions, I have the Raiders making the playoffs at 10-7 as a big surprise. And why not add a big surprise with another one, an actual piece on this offense, a team where I think they're going to go out, they're going to play hard-mouth football, even though not the most talented team. I think they're just going to punch it down people's throats with Zamir White. I like Zamir White out of the backfield, and I think people just aren't expecting this offense to be as good as they are. I'm one of those people who is picking the ceiling. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. They're going to be a high-powered running team. So, hey, especially in the late rounds, you were kind of desperate looking for a running back. Especially if you went more like a zero or hero RB build. A hero RB build is basically picking one guy at the top of the draft at running back and then waiting a long time to get your second running back. And then zero RB, of course, is just not picking a running back until very late. So if you're looking in that scope, I mean, Zamir White is kind of a guy who might be able to save your day in the later rounds. So, if you're looking for someone who you could at least rely on him to get a lot of touches is what I'm basically saying. So I'm going to pick Zamir White for biggest surprise. Comeback player of the year. It's tough because he started 8 games last season. So this is like on the cusp of comeback. I'm more saying this now that he has a full season. He has a new weapon that I just talked about, Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going to go with the quarterback, Kyler Murray. Which is funny, the first thing you think I would say is Marvin Harrison Jr., but with Kyler, you got to remember, he's a running quarterback, first and foremost. I mean, he's talented. He's certainly talented throwing it, and that definitely helps. He has Marvin Harrison. I like Trey McBride as well. Going into his 3rd season, he definitely started to improve at the end of last season. And then you could just tell with the Cardinals offense, like they were just so much better last year with Kyler Murray. Even though they didn't win a ton of games, they just didn't look like a mess like they did with Josh Dobbs. Mix his running ability with the fact that the Cardinals' defense didn't improve vastly. So they're probably most likely going to end up being behind in a lot of these games. They're going to be a frisky team. So it's just going to lead Kyler Murray to have more opportunity to throw and run the ball. Speak of their offensive line. Their offensive line's not great. Okay, cool. That's not great in real life for Cardinals fans. But you're looking at fantasy, Kyler Murray's just going to take off for 20 yards. Like twice a game, at least. That's 4 fantasy points right there. I think Kyler Murray's a guy you can get in a later round. If you're pissed off, you missed out on one of those running QBs like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson or even Mahomes, you can look back in a few rounds and be like, oh, Kyler Murray's still here. I don't love the Cardinals, but for fantasy, it's going to work out most likely. Okay, and then finally, we have our MVP in fantasy. Now, I didn't want to pick somebody too obvious because, of course, sure, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, you name it. They could easily become your MVP. But I wanted to pick somebody who was not a first or second rounder, more like a third, fourth rounder. A lot of teams that won last year, their real MVPs were like a Raheem Mostert or a David Montgomery. And they got those guys in like the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Now, I'm not going to go that far back because I've already listed a couple underrated guys who are already going in that range. But I'm going to go with a guy who's going mid-third round, maybe 4th round. James Cook, the running back for the Buffalo Bills, is going to be your fantasy MVP this season. Because, look, there's a lot of great YPR. They're able to throw to James Cook as well. He's great out of the backfield. Very underrated. They started to target him a lot more in the red zone towards the end of last year. I just think he's a very solid option on a team where a lot of people are going to think they're going to take a huge step back on offense. But as long as they implement the same schemes that they were at the end of last year that were actually winning them games and not just torturing Josh Allen by putting the whole team on his back, you go to James Cook because they lost Stephon Diggs. Sure, another guy like a Khalil Shakir could step up, Curtis Samuel, maybe the rookie Keon Coleman. But the one guy that Josh Allen knows he can rely on, this season at least, is James Cook. He's going to get tons of carries, tons of targets in the backfield. He's very talented. He's very young. This is only season number 3. And you don't have to reach in the 1st and 2nd round for this guy. So I love this pick. I'm picking James Cook. If you have James Cook in your fantasy league, and especially if you get him in a 3rd or 4th round or even 5th round somehow, that's a great pick. So there you go. Those are our 6 awards for the Fantasy Predictions Full PPR League. I'm so excited for the season. I mean, we're approaching the first preseason weekend. I mean, we already had the Hall of Fame game. There's a preseason game on tomorrow. I'm happy to be talking about fantasy back in the setup like always. We're going to have a lot more football videos coming out. And then we got the season starting in less than a month. So there we go, guys. Once again, just be on the lookout on our socials. You could follow us at First and Gold Pod on Instagram or at First and Gold on TikTok. Please like and subscribe this video. Comment down below. We love interacting with you guys. We love all the support. Thank you so much. And yeah, just be on the lookout for our fantasy live stream in late August. See you later. Bye-bye.